Hey guys, it's Eric here at Farpoint Restorations. Check it out, my carry-on 5x8 trailer. I love this thing. We've had it about 2 years now, and I have used it to recover a couple, probably over a dozen tractors, riding mowers, things like that. But I've also used it to haul scrap, I've also used it to haul all kinds of stuff. So it's super useful. But I ran into an issue, and we're gonna fix it here today. I built this, which is a really cheap but effective setup. It's a hand crank winch. And I put this on here, but of course, if you're gonna have a hand crank winch, you gotta have room for the hand crank part. So I had to build this riser here just so I could install it, and it's worked fine. I mean, it's got like a 30-something foot nylon cable here, and so you could drop the tailgate, roll it out to a tractor, pull it up on here, and use it to help secure things. And like I said, it worked pretty good. The problem is, we went to haul some 4x8 sheeting home, a whole bunch of drywall, and this trailer is 4x8, or I'm sorry, 5x8. And the problem is, it's not 5x8 and a bit, it's literally 5x8. Having this piece of wood here, and I'll get the camera off and show you what I mean, blocked us from being able to put that by about that much, about a ½ inch to an inch. And I had to end up buying some tools and taking this thing off in the parking lot of Home Depot in a rainstorm, which kind of sucked. So decided after that, maybe it's time to upgrade to an electric winch. That's what we're going to install today. I've got this cool Vavor 2,000 pound winch. 2,000 pounds is perfect for a trailer of this size. Load capacity on this is 1,500 pounds. We don't want to overstress it. We're going to be able to mount it lower. We're going to be able to mount it farther back, and that'll give us the full 8 foot and give us the power of just pressing a button and having it installed. So stick around, that's what we're doing today. So you see what I mean, it's a couple of, I made this like in a hurry, but I did paint it. A couple of deck board scraps, couple of 2x6s, and it comes down, and you wouldn't think it sticks out too much, but if you look underneath, it actually sticks out about 1.5 inches, right? Or whatever a 2x6 overlap is. And so that kept us from being able to put anything in there. And of course, the other thing I had to do here is offset it. I was actually quite proud when I got this thing because these are very inexpensive. Of course, you know, these Vavor winches aren't all that expensive either, especially when you get into the lower, horsepower, lower ratings. This being a 2,000 pound was their cheapest model. Harbor Freight has something similar, but this one here is actually like 15 bucks cheaper. So anyway, I'm going to take this off and then we'll begin. We're going to have to, you can do this one of two ways. You could drill a few holes and bolt the plate into place. In my case, we're actually just going to weld it right to the bracket. All right, so as you can see, we removed the other one, and I've got the plate. This Vavor kit came with everything. I love it. It came with the plate, it came with rollers. We've just temporarily installed the rollers just so I could see where it's gonna be. We were talking about it amongst ourselves, and we realized that even though this sticks out that 1.5 inch that we had the issue with before, that it would be so much drywall, about 13.5, 14 inches of drywall or plywood before we hit that and no longer could carry them in our, that this trailer would be probably pretty fully loaded, and we just don't want to deal with that anymore. So that works for us. We're going to set it up like this. I've got some clamps here just holding it in place. You might notice on video that it's not exactly centered. It's about 1.5 inches off that way. And the reason is the winch itself has 2 bolt holes. The back one here is clearly open. This front one, however, is going to go through this plate, the top steel plate. And if you have it exactly centered, it goes right into the support here. So we just pushed it off just a little bit. And you know, you could almost get up behind it, but honestly, I felt like that was going to end up being more trouble than it was worth in the long run. Because what if we weld it into place? What if we bolt it into place and then we go to put that last one in and it doesn't want to bolt through? Now we only have 2 holes holding this thing on, and we've kind of opened ourselves up to a big problem at that point. A lot of cutting and grinding to undo it. The other thing we're going to do here is, I've got a metal ammo box. We're going to station that right here on a little platter that I'm going to weld in, and that will allow us to have a battery and the remote control for this stored away nicely and kind of, you know, keep it out of the rain and all the rest. And that way I don't have to run wiring from the front of my cars or truck all the way to the back when I want to use this as a winch, an electric winch. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to get some paint markers, and we're going to mark up these lines, these holes, make sure we have everything right where we want it. I'll probably do some drilling, then we're going to do some scuffing with a grinder to get this paint cleared off. I'm going to do some stick welding. We'll put a bead along both sides here just for extra strength. And that'll be it. We'll get ready to bolt this thing on and we'll move on to the next stage. Okay, so as you can see, we've made some lines here. We've got our holes colored in as well. I'll move this out of the way. It's a little damp. It's snowing pretty good outside. That's why we're doing the work inside today. These are those, I made a video on these. These are the RevMark markers. These things are awesome. Good for construction, made in America, good quality product. Anyway, this one, we're gonna drill those out with a proper size drill bit. Then we're gonna take a grinder and kind of clean these areas off. And we'll do the same, just a little bit on the edges here and here. And we'll be ready to move on and get this thing done. All right, so I'm going to bolt down these outer two, tighten everything up there, and then we will scuff up an area and do a little tack weld. Do you have to weld? Absolutely not. This is not necessary. It's just a little extra bit of reinforcement here. I'm going to go ahead and scuff these corners up here so that we get a better chance for a better weld. But it certainly helps if you can get down to the metal, and there we go. Okay, time to whip out the welder. All right, well, I've got my little Vavor stick welder here, and I'll tell you what, man, no house is complete without a stick welder. I'm gonna go ahead and put my little Harbor Freight helmet on here, and Jen's gonna look away or she'll be blind, and we're ready to do this. Cool, well, there it is, you can see. Nicely done. Knocked some of the edges off, but not bad, and hopefully not going anywhere. So it's time to mount this. This is the Vavor P2000-1 electric winch. It's about the smallest winch you can get, but that's exactly what I wanted for this setup. So I'll go ahead and feed that through, and we'll get our bolts in place for it. And then we'll move on to welding a bracket a little lower down here. I'll show you that. That'll be for our battery, which I intend to use Ryobi batteries with an adapter for this winch. Even though they're 18 volt, they'll work just fine with this 12 volt winch. In fact, they'll work a little faster. And they'll be perfect for doing this kind of stuff. Takes up less space. Got the winch, and the controls will go in there, and it'll be waterproof, so I think it'll be a pretty good spot for it. I've got another bracket, and I've got an ammo can, right? Just an old steel ammo can here. Now what we want to do here is we're going to put this bracket that I've got here, which is another winch plate. I had this from some other project. Actually, I think this came from the crank winch, and I've been sitting on it for a while, but it also will make for a perfect little platform. We'll weld that in right there. And the reason I don't want to bolt this in is because those bolts will stick through on this side. And like I said, this thing is exactly 8 feet. So anything sticking out on these rails is going to cause us to have issues if we're trying to load 4x8 sheeting in here. So we're going to put that right there. And then we'll mount this to there. That'll give us a place to store the power and the controller and a battery. And probably a couple of straps as well. So I'm going to clean up an area right here, and we'll get started. All right, well, we're getting there now. Jen got a chance to do some welding, and it came out pretty darn good. I jumped up and down on it before we attached it. She was afraid that it hadn't bonded properly, but it bonded properly. All right, so the next thing, and I did this off camera here, is drilled a few holes in the bottom. And that's going to sit this plate on here, and we have it situated about there. So I'm going to go ahead and insert the nuts and bolts, tighten that down. I've also undid the winch material because I want to run these wires through the box. I drilled one hole here on the side, actually 2 holes before I realized I only needed one. One hole here on the side. And of course, when we're done with this, we're going to paint this whole thing black. Kind of got some flat black paint to finish it off. We'll let it sit, because it's cold out. It is definitely cold. But let's do it. Pretty cool. All right, feed my wires through up to here. battery box and battery will go in here. And we're almost there. All right, well, here we are. I've got my control panel wired in. I've just got it hooked to a jump box right now because I'm waiting on an adapter for my Ryobi tool. But I've got the winch through here, and I'm going to go ahead and hit release. Now, this does have a manual release. You pull that out, you can unwind it as fast as you want to. But just to show it working here. And if I want, it actually unwinds pretty quickly, but if I want to wind it back in, and that's it, my friends. I hope you enjoyed this upgrade to the Carry-On 5x8 trailer. Of course, you could do this to any trailer. They have wood bottom ones, they have larger ones, smaller ones, but it works. Got a nice little place to store the electrical stuff out of the rain, and I've got a beautiful new powered winch to save my aging self. Till next time, my friends, take care.